MTC 1, 2025, Unit 13 Number. Analysis. The costs of interruptions are well documented. Martin Luther King Jr. lamented them when he described that lovely poem that didn't get written because someone knocked on the door. Martin Luther King Jr. Perhaps the most famous literary example happened in 1797 when Samuel Taylor Coleridge started writing his poem Kubla Khan from a dream he had, but then was visited by an unexpected guest. 1797 Samuel Taylor Coleridge Kubla Khan. For Coleridge, by coincidence, the untimely visitor came at a particularly bad time. Coleridge. He forgot his inspiration and left the work unfinished. While there are many documented cases of sudden disruptions that have had significant consequences for professionals in critical roles such as doctors, nurses, control room operators, stock traders, and pilots, they also impact most of us in our everyday lives, slowing down work productivity and generally increasing stress levels. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 13 Number 01. You hear again and again that some of the greatest composers were misunderstood in their own day. Not everyone could understand the compositions of Beethoven, Brahms, or Stravinsky in their day. The reason for this initial lack of acceptance is unfamiliarity. The musical forms, or ideas expressed within them, were completely new. And yet, this is exactly one of the things that makes them so great. Effective composers have their own ideas. Have you ever seen the classic movie Amadeus? Amadeus? The composer Antonio Salieri is the host of this movie. He's depicted as one of the most famous non-great composers. He lived at the time of Mozart and was completely overshadowed by him. Antonio Salieri. Now, Salieri wasn't a bad composer. In fact, he was a very good one. Salieri. But he wasn't one of the world's great composers because his work wasn't original. What he wrote sounded just like what everyone else was composing at the time. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 13 Number 02. There's a lot of scientific evidence demonstrating that focused attention leads to the reshaping of the brain. In animals rewarded for noticing sound, to hunt or to avoid being hunted for example, we find much larger auditory centers in the brain. In animals rewarded for sharp eyesight, the visual areas are larger. Brain scans of violinists provide more evidence, showing dramatic growth and expansion in regions of the cortex that represent the left hand, which has to finger the strings precisely, often at very high speed. Other studies have shown that the hippocampus, which is vital for spatial memory, is enlarged in taxi drivers. The point is that the physical architecture of the brain changes according to where we direct our attention and what we practice doing. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 13 Number 03. Every species has certain climatic requirements, what degree of heat or cold it can endure. For example, when the climate changes, the places that satisfy those requirements change, too. Species are forced to follow. All creatures are capable of some degree of movement. Even creatures that appear immobile, like trees and barnacles, are capable of dispersal at some stage of their life as a seed, in the case of the tree, or as a larva, in the case of the barnacle. A creature must get from the place it is born, often occupied by its parent, to a place where it can survive, grow, and reproduce. From fossils, scientists know that even creatures like trees moved with surprising speed during past periods of climate change. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 13 Number 04. A remarkable characteristic of the visual system is that it has the ability of adapting itself. Psychologist George M. Stratton made this clear in an impressive self-experiment. George M. Stratton Stratton wore reversing glasses for several days, which literally turned the world upside down for him. Stratton. In the beginning, this caused him great difficulties. Just putting food in his mouth with a fork was a challenge for him. With time, however, his visual system adjusted to the new stimuli from reality, and he was able to act normally in his environment again, even seeing it upright when he concentrated. As he took off his reversing glasses, he was again confronted with problems. He used the wrong hand when he wanted to reach for something, for example. Fortunately, Stratton could reverse the perception, and he did not have to wear reversing glasses for the rest of his life. Stratton. For him, everything returned to normal after one day. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 13 Number 05. A key to engagement and achievement is providing students with relevant texts they will be interested in. My scholarly work and my teaching have been deeply influenced by the work of Rosalie Fink. Rosalie Fink. She interviewed 12 adults who were highly successful in their work, including a physicist, a biochemist, and a company CEO. All of them had dyslexia and had had significant problems with reading throughout their school years. While she expected to find that they had avoided reading and discovered ways to bypass it or compensate with other strategies for learning, she found the opposite. To my surprise, I found that these dyslexics were enthusiastic readers. They rarely avoided reading. On the contrary, they sought out books. The pattern Fink discovered was that all of her subjects had been passionate in some personal interest. Fink. The areas of interest included religion, math, business, science, history, and biography. What mattered was that they read voraciously to find out more. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 13 Number 06. Individuals who perform at a high level in their profession often have instant credibility with others. People admire them, they want to be like them, and they feel connected to them. When they speak, others listen even if the area of their skill has nothing to do with the advice they give. Think about a world-famous basketball player. He has made more money from endorsements than he ever did playing basketball. Is it because of his knowledge of the products he endorses? No. It's because of what he can do with a basketball. The same can be said of an Olympic medalist swimmer. People listen to him because of what he can do in the pool. And when an actor tells us we should drive a certain car, we don't listen because of his expertise on engines. We listen because we admire his talent. Excellence connects. If you possess a high level of ability in an area, others may desire to connect with you because of it. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 13 Number 07. Think of the brain as a city. If you were to look out over a city and ask where is the economy located, you'd see there's no good answer to the question. Instead, the economy emerges from the interaction of all the elements from the stores and the banks to the merchants and the customers. And so it is with the brain's operation, it doesn't happen in one spot. Just as in a city, no neighborhood of the brain operates in isolation. In brains and in cities, everything emerges from the interaction between residents, at all scales, locally and distantly. Just as trains bring materials and textiles into a city, which become processed into the economy, so the raw electrochemical signals from sensory organs are transported along superhighways of neurons. There the signals undergo processing and transformation into our conscious reality. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 13 Number 08. If you want the confidence that comes from achieving what you set out to do each day, then it's important to understand how long things are going to take. Over-optimism about what can be achieved within a certain time frame is a problem. So work on it. Make a practice of estimating the amount of time needed alongside items on your things to-do list, and learn by experience when tasks take a greater or lesser time than expected. Give attention also to fitting the task to the available time. There are some tasks that you can only set about if you have a significant amount of time available. There is no point in trying to gear up for such a task when you only have a short period available. So schedule the time you need for the longer tasks and put the short tasks into the spare moments in between. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 13 Number 09. To demonstrate how best to defeat the habit of delaying, Dan Ariely, a professor of psychology and behavioral economics, performed an experiment on students in 3 of his classes at MIT. Dan Ariely MIT. He assigned all classes 3 reports over the course of the semester. The first class had to choose 3 due dates for themselves, up to and including the last day of class. The second had no deadlines, all 3 papers just had to be submitted by the last day of class. In his third class, he gave students 3 set deadlines over the course of the semester. At the end of the semester, he found that students with set deadlines received the best grades, the students with no deadlines had the worst, and those who could choose their own deadlines fell somewhere in the middle. Ariely concludes that restricting freedom, whether by the professor or by students who recognize their own tendencies to delay things, improves self-control and performance. Ariely. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 13 Number 10. We worry that the robots are taking our jobs, but just as common a problem is that the robots are taking our judgment. In the large warehouses so common behind the scenes of today's economy, human pickers hurry around grabbing products off shelves and moving them to where they can be packed and dispatched. In their ears are headpieces. The voice of Jennifer, a piece of software, tells them where to go and what to do, controlling the smallest details of their movements. Jennifer breaks down instructions into tiny chunks, to minimize error and maximize productivity. For example, rather than picking 18 copies of a book off a shelf, the human worker would be politely instructed to pick 5. Jennifer, 1 8, 5. Then another 5. Then yet another 5. Then another 3. 5. 5. 3. Working in such conditions reduces people to machines made of flesh. Rather than asking us to think or adapt, the Jennifer unit takes over the thought process and treats workers as an inexpensive source of some visual processing and a pair of opposable thumbs. Jennifer. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 13 Number 11. One of the big questions faced this past year was how to keep innovation rolling when people were working entirely virtually. But experts say that digital work didn't have a negative effect on innovation and creativity. Working within limits pushes us to solve problems. Overall, virtual meeting platforms put more constraints on communication and collaboration than face-to-face settings. For instance, with the press of a button, virtual meeting hosts can control the size of breakout groups and enforce time constraints. Only one person can speak at a time. Nonverbal signals, particularly those below the shoulders, are diminished. Seating arrangements are assigned by the platform, not by individuals, and visual access to others may be limited by the size of each participant's screen. Such restrictions are likely to stretch participants beyond their usual ways of thinking, boosting creativity. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 13 Number 12. The law of demand is that the demand for goods and services increases as prices fall, and the demand falls as prices increase. Giffen goods are special types of products for which the traditional law of demand does not apply. Instead of switching to cheaper replacements, consumers demand more of giffen goods when the price increases and less of them when the price decreases. Taking an example, rice in China is a giffen good because people tend to purchase less of it when the price falls. The reason for this is, when the price of rice falls, people have more money to spend on other types of products such as meat and dairy and, therefore, change their spending pattern. On the other hand, as rice prices increase, people consume more rice. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 13, Number 13. Over time, babies construct expectations about what sounds they will hear when they hold in memory the sound patterns that occur on a regular basis. They make hypotheses like, if I hear this sound first, it probably will be followed by that sound. Scientists conclude that much of babies' skill in learning language is due to their ability to calculate statistics. For babies, this means that they appear to pay close attention to the patterns that repeat in language. They remember, in a systematic way, how often sounds occur, in what order, with what intervals, and with what changes of pitch. This memory store allows them to track, within the neural circuits of their brains, the frequency of sound patterns and to use this knowledge to make predictions about the meaning in patterns of sounds. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 13, Number 14. One big difference between science and stage magic is that while magicians hide their mistakes from the audience, in science you make your mistakes in public. You show them off so that everybody can learn from them. This way, you get the advantage of everybody else's experience, and not just your own idiosyncratic path through the space of mistakes. This, by the way, is another reason why we humans are so much smarter than every other species. It is not that our brains are bigger or more powerful, or even that we have the ability to reflect on our own past errors, but that we share the benefits that our individual brains have earned from their individual histories of trial and error. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 13, Number 15. In a culture where there is a belief that you can have anything you truly want, there is no problem in choosing. Many cultures, however, do not maintain this belief. In fact, many people do not believe that life is about getting what you want. Life is about doing what you are supposed to do. The reason they have trouble making choices is they believe that what they may want is not related to what they are supposed to do. The weight of outside considerations is greater than their desires. When this is an issue in a group, we discuss what makes for good decisions. If a person can be unburdened from their cares and duties and, just for a moment, consider what appeals to them, they get the chance to sort out what is important to them. Then they can consider and negotiate with their external pressures. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 13, Number 16. One of the most important aspects of providing good care is making sure that an animal's needs are being met consistently and predictably. Like humans, animals need a sense of control. So an animal who may get enough food but doesn't know when the food will appear and can see no consistent schedule may experience distress. We can provide a sense of control by ensuring that our animal's environment is predictable. There is always water available and always in the same place. There is always food when we get up in the morning and after our evening walk. There will always be a time and place to eliminate, without having to hold things into the point of discomfort. Human companions can display consistent emotional support, rather than providing love one moment and withholding love the next. When animals know what to expect, they can feel more confident and calm. MTC. Good job.